You want to win? Then get ready to disappear. Because real success doesn't scream. It whispers in the dark. It doesn't post every move on social media. It doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't chase the spotlight. It builds quietly, consistently, relentlessly. Let me tell you something most people won't. Success is not loud. It's lonely. It's exhausting. It's invisible until it's undeniable. And by the time the world sees you, you'll already be battle, scarred and unrecognizable. That's the grind no one shows. That's the silence where champions are made. You want to win? Then get ready to disappear. Because that's how real success doesn't scream. It whispers in the dark. It doesn't post every move online. It doesn't care for applause. It builds quietly, unseen, uncelebrated. And by the time the world notices, the journey is already done. What they see is the tip of the iceberg, the shine, but they never see the storms you endured underwater. That's the cost. That's the grind. That's the truth. And if you're not ready to suffer in silence, you're not ready to succeed. Everyone wants the reward, but no one wants the invisible hours that come before it. Success. It starts where nobody is watching. In the silence of your room when you're dead tired, but you choose to push anyway. When you wake up before the sun and drag yourself to your goal. Not because it feels good, but because you said you would. There are no claps for that. No viral clips. No trophies. Just repetition. Just grit. And while the world celebrates the results, only you know what it really took to earn them. You'll hear people say, hard work pays off. But they forget to tell you how isolating that work really is. You won't be surrounded by cheerleaders. Most of the time, you'll be met with silence, even doubt. You'll have to become your own support system, your own motivation. And that's where most people break. They crave validation. They need people to notice their effort. But true success doesn't give you that comfort. Not at the start. It tests if you're still willing to work when no one cares. And when you're in that space, that deep silence, your mind will scream for an escape. You'll want to slow down. You'll wonder why you're doing it. You'll ask yourself if it's worth it. But that moment, that exact moment, is what separates winners from everyone else. Can you keep moving without a spotlight? Can you keep believing when there's no applause? Can you keep building when no one's clapping? If the answer is yes, then congratulations. You're on the right path. Because only those who keep going through that kind of silence are the ones who reach the roar of success later. Success, in its purest form, doesn't announce itself. It arrives uninvited. It shows up when preparation meets consistency. And when it comes, it doesn't ask for permission. It simply reflects everything you did in the dark. Every late night, every early morning, every painful failure, every no, you turned into fuel. It all adds up. It compounds quietly, like interest. And by the time others see it, you're already on the next level. Because you weren't waiting for validation. You were working. You were sacrificing. You were becoming. So if you're chasing real success, understand this: you're choosing silence. You're choosing the grind over comfort, consistency over cloud. You're choosing to show up when it's hard, when it's lonely, when it's thankless. And that choice, that's what forges the unbreakable. That's what turns ambition into achievement. That's what separates those who talk about success from those who live it. And when the world finally sees you, they'll call it talent, luck, destiny. But you'll know the truth. It was silence, it was discipline, and it was the quiet grind that built you. If you're chasing greatness, forget about balance. Forget about fitting in. Forget about seeking approval. A success isn't for the comfortable. It's for the obsessed. The ones who can't sleep without progress. The ones who wake up with fire in their chest, not because they're rested, but because they're relentless. Obsession isn't a flaw. It's your weapon. It separates the wishful thinkers from the doers. When the world tells you to slow down, to take it easy, to enjoy the moment, obsession tells you, you're not done yet. That's the voice you follow. That's the voice that builds legacies. People will try to tame you. They'll say, you're doing too much. They'll ask why you're working on weekends, skipping parties, passing on trips. And they won't understand because obsession doesn't make sense to the average mind. That's the price of being uncommon. You have to live different to become different. And yes, it's isolating. You'll walk into rooms and feel like a stranger. You'll drift from people you used to vibe with. But that's not because you changed. It's because you evolved. You outgrew their rhythm. While they're chasing comfort, you're chasing your next level. This obsession, it will cost you. It will demand your time, your energy, your peace. You will lose sleep. You will miss out. You will break down. But the beauty lies in that breakdown. Because while others crumble from pressure, obsession teaches you how to rise through it. It pushes you beyond limits you never knew existed. It forces you to stretch, to fight, to show up when there's no cheer, no hype, no audience. You'll find strength in solitude, power in persistence. You'll become your own engine, and that's when you become unstoppable. There will be moments when you question your sanity, when the weight gets heavy and the path seems endless. But that's the territory of obsession. It isn't linear. It's chaotic. It's messy. Some days you'll feel invincible, and others you'll want to quit. But what keeps you moving is that deep, burning need to become everything you said you would. That unshakable belief that you're meant for more. That every sacrifice, every lonely night, every hard choice, it's not in vain. It's part of the blueprint. It's molding you for something bigger than most can imagine. Obsession forces you to operate at a level most people can't even comprehend. You don't dabble, you dominate. You don't try, you execute. While they're asking how, you're already doing it. While they're busy comparing, you're creating. You stop looking around and start locking in. Every move becomes intentional. Every second counts. You don't have time for drama, for excuses, for distractions. Your mind is sharp, your vision is tunnel, and your heart beats for one thing: growth. And in that space, success stops being a goal. It becomes a side effect of how you live. You'll intimidate people with your intensity. Your pace will make them uncomfortable. And that's okay. You weren't born to blend in. You were built to break patterns. You're not here to make everyone feel safe. You're here to show what's possible when nothing else matters, but becoming the best version of yourself. Obsession is not unhealthy. It's necessary. Because greatness is not handed out to the passive. It's earned by the relentless. The ones who burn with purpose. The ones who are willing to go further, stay longer, and give more. Not because they have to, but because they can't not. That's what it means to be obsessed. That's what it takes to win. We live in a world obsessed with shortcuts, instant results, quick wins, and hacks that promise everything without requiring anything. But the truth is, success isn't seduced by shortcuts. It responds only to discipline. That boring, repetitive, unglamorous grind that most people run from. That's where the magic happens. The discipline to show up when it's inconvenient. The discipline to keep going when no one's watching. That's not something you're born with. It's something you earn, day by day, choice by choice, by refusing to quit when it would be easier to walk away. Motivation is temporary. It's loud, emotional, exciting, but it fades. And when it does, discipline steps in. Discipline is what gets you out of bed on the days you feel empty. It's what keeps you focused when distractions try to pull you back to average. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It demands action. It forces you to become accountable to your own standards. And those standards, they're the bricks that build your future. Without discipline, your dreams are just fantasies, pretty ideas without a backbone. You want to know why so few people make it to the top? Because they're waiting to feel ready. They want the stars to align, the mood to be right, the conditions to be perfect. But discipline doesn't wait. Discipline works through chaos, through fatigue, through uncertainty. It thrives in discomfort. That's the secret. Anyone can work when it's easy. But the discipline, they show up when it's brutal. When the world's falling apart, they still train. When no one's clapping, they still grind. When the goal feels out of reach, they still push forward. That's what separates contenders from pretenders. And here's the uncomfortable truth: the grind is boring. It's repetitive. It's lonely. It tests your patience, your endurance, your commitment. There's nothing sexy about practicing the same skill for hours or sacrificing fun for focus. But that's where greatness lies. In the repetition no one sees. In the refusal to let up, even when progress feels invisible. You don't rise by doing extraordinary things once. You rise by doing the ordinary things extraordinarily well. Over and over and over again. That's how discipline transforms your life without asking for permission. While others are chasing hacks and gimmicks, you become dangerous by mastering the basics. The small daily decisions that seem insignificant, they stack, they compound. And before you know it, discipline turns you into someone even you don't recognize. Someone sharper, stronger, more resilient. The grind becomes part of who you are, not something you do. And once that shift happens, quitting is no longer an option. Discipline becomes your identity. And with that, you become unshakable. Most people want to be legendary, but they don't want to live like it. They want the outcome, not the process. But the grind doesn't reward the loudest. It rewards the most consistent. It's not about intensity, it's about sustainability. Can you still show up after failure, after rejection, after exhaustion? That's the real test. Because when motivation leaves, when support fades, when the world stops cheering, that's when discipline takes over. And if you can master that part, if you can live in the grind and still keep moving, you don't just achieve success, you earn it. Through sweat, through silence, through sacrifice. That's the standard. That's the game. Not everyone will understand your silence, and that's perfectly fine. When you begin choosing growth over gossip, purpose over popularity, and long-term vision over short-term pleasure, you naturally start to drift from the crowd. It's not because you're arrogant. It's not because you think you're better. It's because you've locked into something bigger than approval. And when that shift happens, don't expect applause. Don't expect people to understand your choices. They'll say you're changing like it's a crime. But that change, that's evolution. That's you outgrowing conversations, habits, and relationships that no longer align with who you're becoming. You will start to feel misunderstood. You'll notice people pulling away. They'll start calling you distant, difficult, or too focused. But let them. That's the tax of transformation. You're not here to be relatable. You're here to be remarkable. And remarkable doesn't blend in. It breaks away. It creates space for growth by walking away from anything that slows it down. The silence that follows that decision. It's not emptiness. It's power. It's space to breathe, to build, to become. While others fill the air with noise, you learn to value your own thoughts, your own voice, your own direction. Your priorities begin to shift. You no longer have time to explain yourself. You don't justify your goals. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. And as painful as it is, you start to realize that not everyone can come with you. Some people are only meant to know a version of you that no longer exists. And trying to hold on to them only weighs you down. Growth requires release. It requires the courage to stand alone when necessary. And in that solitude, something powerful happens. You become unshakable. Because you finally stop negotiating your future for someone else's comfort. That's the moment you stop living for validation. You stop needing people to get it. You stop posting every move for approval. You learn to sit with your progress in silence. You learn to clap for yourself when no one else will. You learn that your value isn't determined by who notices your effort. It's determined by the effort itself. And that mindset, it's dangerous. Because now you're no longer driven by ego, but by mission. You've detached from external noise and locked into internal purpose. That's when you become lethal. That's when you start moving with precision. People will begin to talk. They'll assume you're arrogant, distant, cold. But they're mistaking focus for attitude. You're not ignoring them. You're just not entertaining distractions anymore. Your time has become sacred. Your energy has become intentional. You're no longer available for every call, every drama, every unnecessary detour. You've made a decision that most people are afraid to make. You've chosen yourself. You've chosen your peace, your discipline, your evolution. And that kind of decision scares people who haven't yet made peace with their own potential. You'll learn that not everyone deserves access to your journey. Not everyone is equipped to understand your fire. And that's not your responsibility to fix. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. Your vision is yours for a reason. And the silence you're walking through, that's where leaders are forged. That's where clarity sharpens. That's where noise fades and purpose speaks. So, if you feel like you're walking alone, good. That means you're walking ahead. Keep going. The ones meant for your future will meet you there, not because you waited for them, but because you kept walking anyway. Your journey towards success will confuse people, and that's the point. When you stop moving the way everyone else moves, when you stop doing what's expected, when you decide to change, evolve, and elevate, people get uncomfortable. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer available in the ways they were used to. That's when the criticism starts. They'll say you're acting different. They'll say you've changed. But what they won't say is that they're afraid of losing the version of you that stayed small, that stayed safe, that stayed average. Growth isn't always celebrated, especially by those who've chosen to stay the same. You'll notice it in the silence. Fewer texts, fewer invites, fewer conversations. You'll feel it in their energy. The subtle jabs, the sarcasm, the dismissive tone. Not because you did something wrong, but because your ambition triggers their insecurities. Your consistency reminds them of their excuses. And instead of clapping for you, They distance themselves. Don't take it personally. You're not supposed to be understood by everyone. You're not meant to be accepted by the crowd you're outgrowing. The moment you decide to become more, you automatically separate yourself from those who have settled. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. The real shift happens when you stop explaining yourself. You stop needing people to see your vision. You realize not everyone has the capacity to understand the kind of fire that burns inside you. You stop trying to convince them, and you start conserving your energy for what actually matters: execution. You learn that being misunderstood is a necessary part of the process. Because the higher you climb, the thinner the air gets. The circle gets smaller. The conversations get deeper. The noise fades, and you begin to hear your own voice louder than ever. That's the sound of growth. In the process of becoming who you're meant to be, you will lose who you once were. And that can feel like death. You'll grieve your old identity. You'll miss the comfort of being accepted, even if that acceptance came at the cost of your potential. But every time you choose progress over popularity, you reclaim your power. You stop watering yourself down to be digestible. You stop shrinking yourself to make others feel tall. You stand in your truth, fully, even when it makes others uncomfortable. And you'll start to attract people who are aligned with that truth. People who see your growth and celebrate it, instead of fearing it. Sometimes, the hardest part of the grind isn't the effort. It's the isolation. It's being in a room full of people and still feeling alone because your priorities no longer match theirs. It's choosing discipline over distraction, vision over validation. You'll sit in silence some nights, questioning whether it's worth it. You'll miss the ease of your old life. But don't confuse comfort with peace. What you're building in silence is a life of alignment, not approval. You're not here to fit in. You're here to break patterns, to create impact, to live fully awakened to your own potential. There will be people who resent your silence. They'll say you've become distant. They'll try to guilt you into being who you were. Don't fall for it. That version of you was a survival version, built to please, to be accepted, to stay small. But you're not surviving anymore. You're building. And building requires space. It requires clarity. It requires boundaries. You don't owe anyone access to every part of your journey. Let them think what they want. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Because at the end of the day, it's not their dream. It's yours. And it's okay if the path gets lonely. Because lonely paths often lead to legendary destinations. You don't need to explain your ambition. You don't need to post every move or defend your goals to people who aren't willing to chase anything of their own. In fact, the more you talk, the more energy you waste trying to prove something that should only ever be proven by results. The strongest people you'll ever meet aren't the loudest in the room. They're the quietest. Not because they lack power, but because they've already decided that their work will speak louder than any words ever could. When you start moving in silence, you stop seeking approval and start owning your path. That shift, that's when everything changes. There's a reason the most successful people stay quiet during the build and loud only in the breakthrough. It's because the grind doesn't need an audience. It needs consistency. While others are posting about their hustle, you're actually doing it. While they're telling the world about their next big move, you're making yours in silence. Because once you felt the sting of failure, the weight of pressure, and the loneliness of the climb, You stop caring about being seen. You start caring about being excellent. And excellence isn't advertised. It's earned through repetition, through patience, through focused execution when no one's clapping for you. People confuse silence with weakness. They assume you've fallen off when you haven't posted in a while, when you don't broadcast your next step. But that's where they're wrong. Silence isn't absence, it's alignment. It's focus. It's proof that you're more committed to the mission than the perception. Because when you're truly grinding, there's no time to pause and perform for the public. There's no space for noise when every ounce of you is poured into growth. And when you finally do resurface, you won't have to say a word. Your results will announce your presence before you even enter the room. Let your progress be the proof. Let the transformation speak for itself. When they see your discipline carved into your physique, your business, your mindset, they'll know. When they see you rise from obscurity to mastery, from unnoticed to undeniable, they'll understand. You don't have to defend the nights you worked instead of partied, the mornings you trained instead of slept, the sacrifices you made that no one will ever see. Your results will echo louder than any explanation ever could. They'll see the outcome, and they'll call it talent, luck, timing, but you'll know it was work. Work they never saw, work they never understood. Most people want to talk about what they're going to do. They want to hype the next chapter before they've even finished the introduction. But when you're serious, you don't talk. You move, you act, you execute. Because you know that energy spent explaining could be energy spent building. And you understand that the real ones don't announce the play. They just run it. There's something powerful about being underestimated. Let them think you've disappeared. Let them assume you've given up. Then show up one day unrecognizable, transformed. And let the silence that once surrounded you become the shock that shakes them. You were never meant to be noise. You were meant to be impact. And impact doesn't come from convincing. It comes from becoming. Every day you grind in silence. You're choosing legacy over likes. Every step you take without applause is a step toward the kind of success that doesn't just impress people, it humbles them. You're not doing this for claps. You're not doing this for attention. You're doing this for the life you know you're capable of living. So stay quiet. Stay focused. Let them wonder. Let them doubt. Because when it's time, your results will walk into the room long before you ever do. When success finally shows up, it won't knock. It won't ask if you're ready. It will barge in like it's always belonged to you. And in a way, it has. Because you earned it in silence. You built it in the dark. The same people who ignored your effort will be the first to comment when they see your results. Suddenly, you'll become the topic of conversation. People will want to know how you did it, where you came from, what your secret was. They'll talk about your rise like it was overnight. But you'll know the truth. It took years of sacrifice, discipline, and lonely nights to become an overnight success. At first, they doubted you. They questioned your choices. They didn't see the vision, and some of them laughed behind your back. You heard the whispers. He's trying too hard. She's obsessed. They'll never make it. But instead of reacting, you stayed focused. You let their doubt fuel you. You didn't clap back. You worked in silence. And now those same voices are changing. The laughs have turned into admiration. The doubt has turned into curiosity. They want to be close to what they once dismissed. That's what happens when success becomes undeniable. It erases every doubt, every insult, every lie. You see, when you've truly earned something, you don't need to brag about it. The results speak volumes. People can feel the difference between someone who talks and someone who executes. Your presence shifts rooms, not because you're louder, but because you carry the weight of someone who's done the work. That quiet confidence, that grounded energy, it can't be faked. It comes from the hours you spend alone, grinding without recognition, from the failures you turned into fuel, from the storms you walked through without asking for sympathy. And that's why when success shows up, it doesn't surprise you. It confirms you. The people who once pitied you will now praise you. They'll pretend they were always supportive. They'll rewrite the narrative in their favor, as if they always believed in you. Let them. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to remind them where they stood when you were struggling. The ones who were real, you'll never forget. And the ones who weren't, you won't need. Because the higher you rise, the clearer your circle becomes. And success doesn't just give you rewards, it gives you clarity. You'll finally see who deserves access and who only showed up for the spotlight. There's something powerful about walking into a room where you were once overlooked and being the one everyone now wants to learn from. It's not about revenge, it's about realization. The realization that staying disciplined, even when no one understood you, was worth it. The late nights, the lonely mornings, the setbacks that almost broke you, they all prepared you for this. You didn't just arrive here. You climbed. You fought. You sacrificed. And every scar, every lesson, every setback became a brick in the empire you're now standing on. People will look at you and see the success, but only you will ever truly know the cost. That's why you don't owe explanations to anyone. Let them wonder. Let them create their own stories. Your job was never to convince them. It was to become undeniable. And now that you have, your silence becomes your strength, your results become your voice, and your journey becomes your legacy. What they once couldn't see in you, they now can't ignore. Success, real success, doesn't need permission. It doesn't need noise. It simply arrives. And when it does, it takes over. Not because you asked for recognition, but because you honored it when nobody was watching. So now, when they ask where you've been, just smile. Because while they were watching, you were working. While they were waiting for a moment, you were becoming one. This was never about proving them wrong. It was always about proving yourself right. Every second of silence, every sacrifice, every setback, it wasn't wasted. It was preparation. And now you don't need the spotlight. You are the fire that lights the room. Success didn't change you. As it revealed you.